Well, we're trying to. We're not making enough progress to get through all of our articles today. But they're pushing now from this New Zealand shooting. They're really going to push gun control in New Zealand, similar to what they did in Australia about a couple of decades ago. And it sounds like everybody in New Zealand is going to be on board with this. Now, it's not apparently all that easy to begin with to get a gun in New Zealand, as a matter of fact. So they're going to, though, they think, do like a nationwide gun ban for any semi-automatics and a turn-in. And, it's interesting because the actual person who did the shooting, this person who we think is clinically insane, the New Zealand mosque shooter, he describes himself as an eco-fascist, but he also says that the country that he is most aligned with, that he's most similar to, is the People's Republic of China. And I just thought that was interesting, a place where they have very strict gun control laws and also have very strict control over what people are allowed to think and what they're allowed to express. That's the country that he most identifies with. So, perhaps was the outcome that we're going to see come to pass, which is more control by government, more restrictions on people's freedoms and rights. Is that what he was actually after to begin with? Because that's what his manifesto sounds like. And we see even reverberations of that here in our own country, where Judge Jeanine Pirro was banned from Fox News as people began to say that this mosque shooting was caused by criticisms of Ilhan Omar, the anti-Semitic congresswoman who's currently in the U.S. Congress. The one we changed the hat rule for, because you're not allowed to wear a head covering in U.S. Congress, and you haven't been for our entire history. But Ilhan Omar said she absolutely was not going to take off her burqa or niqab, the headscarf. And that's fine, because nobody says you have the right to be a congressperson, or that you have to be in there. So if you don't want to take your hat off, you don't have to go inside. But no, they actually just changed the rules just for her, and they changed the rules. And this is what's so annoying about it too, is because they don't even change all the rules. They don't just say, you know what, now you can wear hats in the U.S. Congress. So, if you're an Orthodox Jew and you want to wear a hat, go ahead, be our guest. Because up until now, that hasn't been allowed, right? If you're of another religion who wants to wear some kind of a head covering, not allowed. But they didn't even say that. They don't even allow anybody. How about this Frederica? You remember the cowgirl lady from South Florida, Frederica Wilson? She wants to wear her cowboy hat. That's her signature item. That's her personal style. And she actually had previously asked them to be allowed to wear her cowboy hat in Congress, and they wouldn't let her. And so you would think surely today with the change of rules, she's allowed to, right? Right? Mm-hmm. No. Only Ilhan Omar gets an exception to the rule. And, folks, aren't we just sick of all these exceptions that have to be made and all these one-way streets that we end up on, where, we're expected to make all kinds of exceptions for a certain religion, but nobody within that religion is supposed to make any exceptions for our culture, our way of doing things, our predominant religion of Christianity, which is the predominating religion of this country. At least it is still. May not be in 50 years the way things are going, but as of right now, it still is. This is a Judeo-Christian country. Our laws are based on Judeo-Christian ideals. We come from that heritage. And I'm getting tired of the feeling like we need to apologize for that, because there's absolutely nothing to be apologized for. There's absolutely nothing to be apologized for. But we're banning our own people, and we're saying, oh, you know what? You've said too many things about Muslims that, you can't say anything about them. You can't criticize them. So they can be anti-Semitic, but you can't criticize it. They can be anti-homosexual. Nobody's allowed to do that anymore. Nobody's allowed to be anti-homosexual in this country. I know I'm not. You're not, Pat George. Roxanne, you're not. None of us are. But if we're Muslim, we could. If we were Muslim, we could still be anti-homosexual, and apparently that would be acceptable, because nobody's hammering on them about that issue. Nobody dares to raise any kind of a challenge to Ilhan Omar about her views on homosexuality. And what happens if you do challenge these people? you get banned. They turn your mic off. The only reason they're not turning this mic off is because Ilhan Omar doesn't know it's on right now. If they knew it was on, no, there you go, Pat George. They'd probably be protesting the show, and this mic would be turned off because they don't want to hear it. You can't criticize them. And what kind of a world is that? That's a world of mind control.
That's a little unfair.
Mm-hmm. What?
Everything you just said, that's a little unfair.
You think I'm being unfair?
No. I don't think you're being unfair.
Okay.
I'm thinking about all these rules.
Yeah, the rules are not fair.
I was just sitting here thinking, what if somebody wanted to challenge this and wear a crown of thorns?
It depends who it is. It depends who wants to challenge it because there are different rules for different people.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that could happen. Maybe like somebody from Texas really wanted to wear a cowboy hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why not?
I was sworn in and I wanted to wear one of those headbands that have the unicorn horn.
There you go.
Top.
Right.
Or how about like the hats from, what was it? Who's the Whippet group? Is that Devo? Devo hats. Dun, 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 dun.
I don't think any of those would be allowed.
A lot of those people should be wearing dunce hats.
And I mean, I don't know where we've gotten so comfortable with different sets of rules for different people, but it surely does seem like at least our leaders are comfortable with that idea. But I think you're right, Pat George. To me, it doesn't seem fair. I want the same rules applied the same way to different people.
And it could be very simple. She cannot wear the headdress, and everybody's happy. That's it.
That's just the rule. It's just a rule we've always had.
Right.
It's just a rule we've always had. And you know what? You want to come to the United States Congress, you got to follow the United States Congress's rules.
Put it right back on when you walk out the door.
Right. You don't get to walk in and say, because I'm here now, you have to change all of your rules. And that's kind of the attitude. Because we're here now,
right,
and we want to do things differently, you have to change all of your rules to accommodate us. No. First of all, you weren't forced to come here. I thought you came here voluntarily. I mean, who goes into another country expecting to be at home? Who goes into another country expecting to find the exact place that they just came from? I mean, only a fool, right? I mean, everybody knows that. Okay, well, I'm leaving my country and I'm going to this new country that's not my country. It doesn't have my culture. Things are going to be different. And you know what? I'm going to be the minority. I'm going to have to adapt to this new culture. And I say, hey, don't come here. Nobody's forcing you to come here. If you want to come here, though, at least come here with the right attitude, which is the attitude of a guest who says, I chose to come visit this place. I chose to come make myself a part of it. So I'm going to adapt to their culture rather than expecting that they change everything about their culture to adapt to mine.
What about when ladies go to the country of, where they wear the head?
You should
that's
cover
right.
up.
That's right. When our reporters and stuff go to Saudi Arabia, right? They're not walking around without the headscarf on. Why? Why, Pat George? Yeah, but how come Saudi Arabia doesn't have to change all their rules for us, for our culture, when we go over there? Or pick your favorite Muslim country, because I'm not trying to pick on Saudi. I mean, it's like Pakistan or somewhere else, How come their blasphemy laws still apply? How come you can't go there and exercise your right to freedom of speech? How come? How come you can't go there and criticize the prophet? We have free speech here, right? You can do that here. Well, and look, now here I am from this other country. You have to adapt to me. But it never goes like that because it's always a one-way street with these people. They want things going their direction, but nothing ever comes back your direction. They want you to give them grace and understanding and tolerance, but they don't ever give you grace and understanding and tolerance.
One of the first things I remember about Streetman is when he came here and he talked about getting up on a little box in London.
Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
That's right.
One of the first things I remember about you.
That's
and
right.
I have that picture in my mind about you. What if you took that box and went into one of the Muslim countries and just got on the box?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure they would all stand around and respect your rights to speak freely on the box. Not.
Another place, what is it? Is it Singapore? They have such strict laws.
Yeah.
Act like you do during spring break here in one of our beach towns. Go over to Singapore and try to pull some of that.
Well, how dare they cane that young man for spitting his gum on the sidewalk? I mean, people do that all the time around here. That's like our culture, to spit your gum on the sidewalk. I mean, it's just crazy. We all get the idea that when you're a guest in someone else's house or their country or whatever, you have to act like a guest. And you know what? You have to follow their rules. They get to establish the rules. You don't get to come in and just change everything and you establish the rules. But somehow, when it comes to particular classes of migrants coming to our country, that logic, that reasonableness, I mean, that's not considered to be, there's nothing that's considered to be wrong about that feeling, right, in the proper context. I mean, that's the feeling that applies all around the world as we're discussing. But yet in this particular context involving one particular religion and one particular culture, we're told essentially you can't even suggest that type of cultural assimilation because there's something racist and wrong about even suggesting it. But wait a minute, it's what goes on in every other circumstance all around the world, and this is the one special exception. And then they try to just browbeat us into accepting that it's logical or it makes some kind of sense, which it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. This is just strictly unfair. I mean, it's just plainly unfair. But they browbeat us essentially into submission. We get almost a Stockholm syndrome, where we're just like, okay, whatever you say, because I can't take any more, of the assault from, whether it be people calling up or doing social media campaigns or whatever. And you just begin to get into a situation where you just want them to stop assailing you, but that's not fair. I want you to be able to think freely, whatever your thoughts may be. I mean, we're losing the currency of freedom of thought. And it really disturbs me, even just the control of what you're allowed to look at. Like I had to go out and find this manifesto. I didn't really want to go digging around for it because, I guess they're logging whatever website you go to, and I don't want to be accused of having been a fan of any of these websites. But I did go on to one and find the manifesto. I did not even look for the video, though. And, it's kind of a big point that in New Zealand they've made the video, they're threatening people with 10 years imprisonment for even possessing that video on their computer. And this level of control of what you're allowed to think about, what you're allowed to see, I'm not encouraging you to go out and watch the video if you don't want to. But if you want to watch the video, if this is really something that happened in our world, then, we need to be able to educate ourselves about it so that we can look at ways of dealing with it in the future, maybe preventing it. But if none of us can talk about it or go see what happened or try to understand it, how are we ever going to be able to change? How are we ever going to be able to account for it in the future?
Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And don't forget to exercise your brain at least once a week.